This is the Business Marketing and Finance Podcast, the podcast for all your business marketing and financial needs. Get insight from experienced professionals as they delve deep into their passions and share their knowledge each week with your host, Daryl James. Like to follow or learn more? You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button now.
Welcome everyone, this is this week's BMF podcast. I'm your host Daryl James and I'm here today with a good friend of mine, Germaine Bowen Smith. Husband, father, life coach and mentor to young people for well over 12 years. Welcome Germaine to Business Marketing and Finance Podcast.
Thank you man, thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, fantastic man. Now as we all know, while being out in the world, working on our business is all good, but your home life is important too. Getting that balance right can be hard sometimes and the scale can often tip in the other direction. Germaine, can you tell us about your journey and what it was like growing up and how you made the turning point to where you are today?
Okay, so growing up, no special story in growing up really. I'd like to say that, you know, it was some traumatic experience. No, I wouldn't want to say that actually. But there was nothing traumatic apart from growing up in a single parent household. So actually, when I think about it, one of the traumas things we could say from that then is born and raised in church, parents, associate pastors of a church that was well growing, well developing, well known within the community. Unfortunately, my dad had a moment of weakness, I'm going to call it, and as a result of that was unfaithful to my mum. As a result of that, that separated their marriage and their relationship. So that entered me into the world from the age of, I believe, 6 into divorce. So from a young age, you're learning about divorce from a very young age, like some other people have. And so that was my kind of springboard into relationships. An eye-opener that nothing lasts forever. I think when you're 6-year-old and you're growing up, you think my parents will be together forever. And having that was kind of my first kind of hit at, this isn't always a done deal. So then growing up from there, like anybody, into relationships, out of relationships, you kind of go through that stage, particularly as in Birmingham, thinking that, you know, you're cool, especially the music scene for me. There was a point where I was doing some music with my brother, was working with a company that was developing a label, and so you kind of think you're hot property, and obviously with that kind of music and that level brings some responsibility where you think that you're hot to all the ladies. And so we entered into relationships because we could, and not understanding much about them. And then, a couple of years later, myself and you met, did music there, developed from there. And on that journey, that's where I met my wife, interestingly enough. And the rest is, as they say, is history. We've been married now in September for 10 years.
Okay, nice.
We've been
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're not there yet though, it could change. I'm joking guys, I'm joking. But yeah, we've been together for 10 years September. We've been together dating, including marriage, for just over 15.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been an extremely long time. I'm not going to divulge my age because it's none of your business. But so we've been together for some time and now we've been married. We've got 2 beautiful children, 2 boys. And so that kind of really opened up my eyes to relationships. Everyone at my age growing up was getting into relationships. So you was kind of going to a wedding every other month or every other year, which was great. And we all was excited. And then, you know, different people going through different situations in their relationship with children, divorce and passing. And I didn't feel no one was talking about it. I didn't feel that nobody was teaching us about it. As a young guy, I reverted back to remembering my parents separating. And naturally, you kind of think, well, that's not the future I want. But who do you go to talk about it if no one's talking about it?
Very true.
You know what I mean? And it can be quite a scary thing. I mean, if you're spending a lot of time with somebody and they know your deepest, darkest secrets and they know a lot about you and then you separate, it kind of just like tears a hole. So for me, I saw friends going through it, friends getting into marriage, but still there's no one having that conversation of, all right, how do you secure yourself, each other, and a positive future? And so a brother was kind of born from that moment.
So could you tell us a little bit more about a brother? Like you've spoken to us of like the journey in terms of how you got to where you are today with a brother and what made you make that step.
Well, how it came about or what it is?
What it is, yeah.
So scary enough, independent. I mean, I'm from a church background. So a brother to me came to me, which is scary, before I was married. And this came to me in 2000 and I believe it was 2006.
Okay.
The idea of a relationship mentoring, but I dismissed it because I wasn't married. So why would I kind of like develop a business around marriage and you're not even in one? Yeah. I think not far after that, I was in a relationship with someone for 3 years, who I kind of thought I would marry, and then we broke apart. So in my head, I was thinking, I don't want to get married because, you know, Chris Brown said these people ain't loyal. But I'm not going to use all them words. But yeah, so a brother, what a brother is, it's a coaching platform, and also it's a best practice one. And what that does is, as a coach myself, I sit down with couples or individuals, and we kind of look at relationships or marriage from their point. So it's not just for married couples.
Okay.
A brother is about anybody in a relationship who wants to develop and grow. And so what we do with that is we will sit down in a coaching manner, and we'll find out what your goal is. So, okay, you're in a relationship. Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Do you and your partner want to be developing a business? What is it that you want? So one of the first things we look at is your why. Why are you together?
Yeah.
And we would also look at the why and try to eliminate, which is risky, but I try and do it, is let's eliminate the word because I love him.
Okay.
Because it's an emotion, it's a feeling.
I agree.
So you can love them now, but then when, you know, the situation gets hot, you might not feel the same way. In fact, you won't feel the same way. That's just playing mildly. So what do you do when the love is no longer your why? So what's next? And then we will explore it. Now, the practice isn't to destroy a relationship. The practice is, let's look at what makes it a relationship in the first place. So if you're saying because the sex is great, that's great, but then what happens when one of you don't want it no more? What happens when, you know, you're, unfortunately, sickness takes you and you can't? What's your understanding of relationships and what's your why? So as a coach, we would definitely break down every barrier and every area of why do you want a relationship? Then we will look at goal setting. So actually, you want a relationship that makes you smile every day, that makes you warm every day, and whatever way you describe being warm. Okay, let's break down what does that look from practical sense, and how can that work? So if it means that you've got to learn on fulfilling yourself, and that person is an additive, and so someone that adds to that, then that's great. Let's look at that. If it's someone who can really just enhance you as a person, but you're also enhancing them, then let's look at what that looks like in layman's terms. Rather than just saying, I just want someone who's always going to be there for me. We'll get a cat. You know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be a partner? So we look at and break down exactly what it really means to be in a relationship, why you want to be in a relationship. And the other question is how long? Because, you know, it's sad but true, but, you know, statistically now some couples in their 70s and now looking at each other saying, I want a divorce. And these are people that have been married like our lifetime who are now considering divorce. That's a generation that people said we will stay together whether we hate each other or not. Who are now looking at options and saying, actually, I can get out of this.
So do you think, like, I mean, you mentioned, you know, older generation in their 70s. Do you think the internet has played a part in that? Because I look at, like, you know, my grandparents and other older members of my family, and they would stay together forever, come what may. Didn't matter who did what. They'll just stay together through thick and thin. And I'm just curious if you think the internet has anything to do with, like, the change today, where people in their 60s and their 70s are now saying, well, you know what? Maybe there's more out there. Maybe I don't want to be with you. Maybe I've changed as a person. And do you think that has encouraged people to drift away or not be as steadfast, or what? What's your take on that?
I think the internet definitely plays a part. I think society plays a massive part. And I think how we are in society has also changed. So our grandparents' days, if they had a dress that was higher than the knee, that was almost seen as porn. Now you go onto the internet, particularly something like Instagram, and everything is above. But you see more knees than you see any clothing. Like, you don't need to use your imagination anymore.
Yeah.
It's right there in front of you. In fact, the buffet is open and it doesn't close. And that's just visually, okay? Yeah. And then you've got people who are, I would say, a bit more experimentative, where they're just open to say, you know what, I know I'm in a relationship, but I just want to try something with you. Like, you've got apps that encourage cheating. You know what I mean? In our parents' days, first of all, there was no internet. There wasn't even any phones. So in their day and age, their relationship was completely bound on trust.
That's it. Yeah.
And so when he walked out that door, or she walked out that door, you trusted that they would do right by you and come back.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you know, so if they went out and cheated, then, you know, that was upsetting. Now they don't even have to leave their bedroom to cheat. They can pick up their mobile phone and text Lucy on Instagram, or she can text Charles on Facebook. So I think from the internet's perspective, that has a massive impact, or social media has a massive impact on how it is. I think also, and I'm not dissing this person, I have to be very clear, but people like Beyonce, artists like that, who first empowered women with Get a Ring on It, which was a really great song, and a lot of women kind of grew from that, and say, you got to respect, which is great, you have to respect me. Then she went and got married and forgot all about Put a Ring on It. But a lot of women, particularly, you know, that stay-at-home mum kind of person, it's that kind of, I'm an independent woman, I don't need nothing from nobody. So she's the mom, she's the dad, she's the housekeeper. A lot more women are kind of driven to go for that that look in terms of wages and having their own accommodation, on their own houses, their own car, almost saying, I have everything, what are you going to do for me? And then you've got guys, and I feel passionate about this one, is I feel like particularly guys get a lot of bashing, even from other guys. Like, I was watching something recently of Steve Harvey, where he was breaking down stereotypes by saying, you know, if your man is got his phone upside down, he's cheating. If a guy says he's doing this, he's not loyal. And I thought, well, I'm not cheating and my phone's down because I don't want the screen to break. Or, you know, some of the attributes he was saying, some might be true, but unfortunately, not all of them are.
Yeah, it was making generic statements that it wasn't. It just didn't apply for every single person. Not
at all. And it's not just him, but there's so many people that put that seed out there. That guys hear this stuff and they start thinking, well, actually, I can't find a woman because she's heard 50 of these different people speaking about how men are. So by the time I come to talk to her correctly, she's already got a perception of, well, you're just like these guys, you know what I mean? So now our relationships are kind of in problems because there's too much information out there. The information is flooding their heads, where it's a case of, no, don't trust him because he's on the bus. He doesn't drive. What man doesn't drive at 30 or 40 or 50? A man that doesn't want to. He's always at his mum's. That shows that he's loyal to his mum. No, he's a mama's boy. So what? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want from him? So I think guys get a lot of bashing as well, and as a result of that, some guys don't want to be labelled. So sometimes it's easier to do what's expected. So you're going to cheat? All right, fine, I'll go and cheat. Because for every 2 women that say, I want a good man, there's 5 women out there that would say, I'll just take him. You know what I mean? And if a guy's kind of hurt and broken as well, or he's having some problems, then again, what we talked about in the Bravo, where does he go to talk about it? Especially if we've got such an ego trip. Like, guys don't talk. We're only just really talking now about mental health. And mental health's been going for years.
Definitely.
And now more guys are talking about it and saying, actually, I'm suffering with depression. But prior to that, what about our fathers who couldn't talk about that, who we've learnt from, and we've learnt their behaviours? So I do think that these are the problems that prevent relationships from growing and people developing.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on like us having like information overload, and I do think that's a big thing, because yes, you know, while our parents or grandparents was growing up, they had their parents and, you know, just a few select peers that were kind of doing the same thing. So they were all sticking together. They were all, you know, get married. The man pretty much goes to work. You don't see him for 12 hours. You had to trust him, like you said. You wouldn't be communicating with him for the whole 12 hours. You literally would just see him when he comes, like expecting his dinner and his big piece of chicken. Whereas today, you know, you can talk to your spouse or to your loved one like every hour if you wanted to, via text messages or WhatsApp or whichever. Do you find that couples come to you and they say that they struggle with having intimacy issues, not necessarily sex, but just real togetherness, because they typically are kind of juggling 10 things at once. Like, you know, they're at work, but they're still texting, and there's no real concentration and quality time being spent, if you will. And then they come home, and then the kids are then, you know, running up and down and things like that, and then there's no real time for them. Do you find couples come to you with that at all? Just from the hectic life?
There's so much different things couples come with. Interesting enough, when we started at Brava, I thought in my head, because women are so vocal about relationships, there'd be more women. There's a lot more men that come to Brava for support, particularly a lot of men who don't want to come with their partner or their wives. So they will say, you know what, I just need some advice on this. And usually, if I had to have a top 5 list, usually it is about trust. It usually is about identity, finance, and very little intimacy. I think we're still in a stage where people are quite private about that.
Okay.
But I would say the last one is probably, did I say finance already? I did say finance.
Yeah.
I would say the last one is probably about parenting.
Okay. Mixed views on parenting, like standards on parenting?
I think when it comes to parenting, it's sometimes the mum has one way of parenting, the dad has another.
Is that especially when you might have different backgrounds, different cultures? So let's say a lady from, you know, Philippines, a guy from New York, and then they're together, and then now they've got 2 different upbringings, so they've come together and they're trying to bring up one child, but they have completely different views just based on how their parents brought them up. It's
a mixture. So one could be, for instance, an English couple, and dad talks too harsh to him. So dad would be like, you sit down there. Where mum would be more like, no, let's find out why he's not sitting down there. So one would be like, let's talk about this. But one's more like barking orders. The other one is mixed families. So usually a guy has met a woman who's got kids already, and the kids are not respectful to him, or vice versa. And that causes a massive issue because they're not the biological parent, and they expect the same kind of treatment as if they were, but that just causes a lot of conflict in the household. So usually that's one of the ones I also get, which also is one of the number 1 breakups for a lot of couples.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give us a testimony of a couple that went through the change of the program, of one of the programs that you do? They came to you, they wanted to escape from where they were, but then they arrived at somewhere really great after going through the process with yourself, with a Brava. No, because the Brava, I mean, some of them are still going through. It's still fairly new. Okay. So most of the couples that I worked with were kind of still working out the changes. One of the things that I do though, particularly for myself, is I wouldn't work on, because every couple's different, but I wouldn't want to work with a couple and tell them something that I wouldn't want to learn myself and adapt myself. So me and my wife were constantly kind of going through coaching ourselves in terms of learning and developing and how things will work for each other. Because I can only think as a guy, she can only think as a woman. So one of the things that I practice with us, and then when I do work with couples, I use with them, is the power of communication. So I'd say the only testimony would probably be ourselves currently, but there are some couples that I'm talking with who are coming towards the end of it. So hopefully now next time we do this, I could probably invite one of them to come and talk for themselves. Oh, cool, wicked. Yeah. And how long does could you do like 1-to-1 type sessions as well as 1-to-couple sessions, and how long does a particular session last? So all coaching sessions about an hour. Anything more than that would be overkill, and you can't really process it. So really it's an hour session. For most time you're doing some real development work for 45 minutes, because that's the best time most people can really absorb and take things in. Anything after that, I think sometimes it becomes white noise, and that person's mouth's just moving and you're not really taking it in. Especially if you're in a coaching session and that session's about yourself. Okay. Because if the session's about yourself and you've identified your shortcomings, your brain's going to start processing it while that session's on. So you're not going to take in all the information, because
You're looking at your value system. Actually, is that person right or am I wrong? No, I feel unjustified. So there's different things that go through it. So we look at about 6 sessions. If anyone needs any more, then obviously we look at doing that. But most sessions are about 6 sessions.
And are these weekly sessions or monthly or bi-weekly?
Fortnightly.
Fortnightly.
Yeah. But it depends on the couple. So no session's the same for anybody. Some sessions might be a case of, actually, you need to be seen weekly for a period of time.
Yeah.
Some couples, it's a case of, let's see each other fortnightly because what we've discussed, you guys got to work on. And you can't do that in a week.
Yeah.
But in a fortnight, you can take enough notes to come back and say, well, actually, here's what I've learned.
So couples, I'm understanding that they will come to you as a together, but then they may have individual needs.
Yeah.
Or individual issues that need to be sorted out. So I know when we was talking, one of the times you spoke to me about a woman who has father issues, which is now seeping into their relationship together. Now, it helps the husband, I guess, understand what's happening, but there may be some one-to-one help that she needs to actually sort out, what's happened over her childhood and coming into adult life. So how do you deal with that?
Coaching, like we said before, coaching can only do so much. So coaching is always about empowerment and growth and helping somebody turn unbelief into belief. I think, but things like counselling and therapy will always have its place, and it's always needed. So for someone, for example, the woman who might have daddy issues, it's identifying what them daddy issues are and how it's impacting the relationship. So if it's a daddy issues where daddy did such a poor or bad example of manhood to her, and she sees some of them traits in her husband, and now is in a position where she can kind of like, when she was a child, you can't really argue with your parents, you can't really say your piece. But now you as an adult, you can. And if your partner's doing some traits that look a bit too much like daddy, and you're in a position where actually I'm going to argue this through, that can cause a massive divide in the relationship. You can have separation and stuff, and before you know it, you're divorced. So someone like that, I would say, would definitely need some counselling. Because it's identifying, well, first of all, do they recognise it themselves? Do you see that actually these issues are causing issues in your relationship? Second of all, and it doesn't just have to be a woman, it could be the guy as well. So do you identify what the issues are? Do you understand how it's hurting your relationship? But before you even come to understand how it's hurting your relationship, how is it impacting you? So from a counselling perspective, that would have to be unpacked. And then it would have to be a case of, when now you've unpacked it, you've got to rebuild it. And that's when, again, the coaching can come in, because it is about building and developing. And my background, because I'm a counsellor as well, although I don't really wear the hat. I'm not a practitioner counsellor, but I've been trained in counselling methods as well. So I can understand when someone needs to go through that counselling phase, where I can say to them, actually, you need some support on this. Whereas when it's coaching, I can definitely say, this is something that we need to write out. So let's draw the plan, let's draw what the issues are. We've unpacked it now that you know that it's daddy issues. How does that look? How does he feel? How does she feel? All right, now let's build from here. Like this is now the beginning, not the start. Well, it is the start, but this is the beginning of the new relationship now, because you're wearing a different way of seeing things.
Looking through a different set of glasses. Okay. Do you believe that everybody should be in a relationship? Now, not talking from a timing point of view, but then, I've always heard that, some people just probably should never be in a relationship, just based on, they seem to not really do well in them. What's your take on that?
Whew. At the risk of knocking down my brand, I'm gonna say this now. This is Germaine speaking. Not a brother. Do I believe that everybody should be in a relationship? No, I don't. I think numbers wise, men outweigh more. Women outweigh more men than women do. So there's more women than there is men. So if every woman was to get with a man, it means that some women will be without one. So from facts of that, no. I think some people, unfortunately, are too selfish and like themselves way too much to open the door to allow somebody to be part of their life. And so they almost convince themselves that they need a relationship because everybody else is in one. And it looks weird that, you're at a certain age, you ain't got no kids, you're not with a partner. So it's like, I better get all this just to fit in. And reality-wise, it's not you.
Social pressure.
Yeah. And I don't want to get churchy, but it's something that I booked upon ages ago and I laughed and I tried to contact a friend about it and we laughed about it too and was like, it's not really talked about. But there's a part, don't quote me now, I got to look for it. We put it in the information.
Okay.
But I'm sure there's a part we found in the Bible where it says that some people were gifted to be single.
Okay.
Which means that don't look at being single as a problem, but it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's not a gift that I hold, and I don't think I want one. But he does mention that for some people it's a gift, which I've not actually done no research on yet.
I think like, if my memory serves me correctly from that book, I think it may be Galatians that you're talking about.
It could be.
I think you're talking about Galatians. I think it was Paul writing one of his letters to the Galatians, if memory serves correctly. But that's a long time ago.
Yeah, because I mean, some people talk about, usually I'm from the church world. Some people would say, it's not good for man to be alone. It's not the same context of being in a relationship. But yeah, so should everyone be in a relationship? I don't think everyone's kitted to be one. No more different to not everyone's kitted to be a parent or to be an entrepreneur. It's hard work. Some people should just be. And it sounds really bad me saying it, but it's true. Some people are just good at being good grafters in supporting building.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So my answer on that one is no, I don't think everyone is suitable or built for a relationship.
And for the ones that are suitable and built for a relationship, would you say there is such a thing as a soulmate? Or would you say it's somebody who's the most compatible for you, who you are, to help you get to where you need to in life? How would you, like, when I was younger, I know I used to believe in soulmates. I know that for a fact. And, now as you get older, you see that many people go through different relationships and they thought was their soulmate. And then it's not, it doesn't continue to grow. They end up, getting divorced, or they end up parting ways, or whichever. And I'm just wondering on your take now, especially with the company, how you feel about soulmates.
Before the company and during the company, my view hasn't really changed. Okay. I personally don't believe in soulmates.
Okay.
I shouldn't say I don't, because everyone's different, so everyone's open to their own opinion and interpretation. But do I believe that there's that one person out there that was designed and made for that one person specifically? I don't really do believe that's true. Because we change. Everyone changes so much that person would have to be so in sync and adaptable to you and your needs and who you are and what you're going through, that means they were grafted and designed specifically for your needs as you was designed for them. And I don't think I've come across a couple yet who is that entrenched and gifted and entwined in their relationship where it's 100% like, we don't ever argue because I was born for you. You know what I mean? I've not yet come across that. I think you change. I mean, one of the things we say is we know who you are, who others see you as, who you want to be. There's always that door that you don't know who you are yet. And that's usually sometimes linked to trauma. So someone who's very close to you or someone very significant to you passes, or something happened to them that you wasn't prepared for or aware of, you naturally change because that door's now been opened. So now out comes this person who you don't know. So how can somebody who was designed for me be prepared for that person if I don't know who that person is? So it's difficult for them to say, actually, I was designed to, especially for this moment. Okay, well, you're gonna have to teach me through it then. Because I ain't got a clue who this person is. So it's a bit long-winded for that answer, but no. I totally don't. I shouldn't say totally, but I totally don't believe that there's in soulmates, unfortunately.
Okay. Now you mentioned earlier, just going on that, talking about people giving into social pressure. Now I would assume, or I'd understand at least, that in the church that there is a lot of social pressure with that, in terms of getting married, having kids, not being on the shelf, not being too old before you get married, and all of that type of thing, especially for the men in church. Because, my understanding and my experience in church has been that there's a shortage of men in churches. So if there's a shortage of men in church, then there's a pressure not only from behaving yourself while in church type of pressure, I guess. But then there's also the pressure of, you're going to have a lot of women's eyes on you because you're like a hot commodity now. There's not many of you there, especially worse if you're in ministry in the church.
Ooh.
So in that sense, would you say that people sometimes get with they get married too quickly in churches? Have you found that in a brother?
It's funny you say that. Me and my wife literally had this conversation a few days ago, like literally. And I said, in any, I don't think it's just church, I think any religious setting.
Okay.
I think the pressure is on them way too much. And I think that's because, understandable, by the religion that you follow, there's a massive part in there that talks about being married and having a wife and husband, all that stuff. And I think because you want, we all got sexual desires. And so especially when you're younger and you're in church and you see someone who looks the part and you're thinking, yeah, that looks nice. I think what happens is we think too much with our situation and not with our head. So we look through the eyes of, I can't remember who said this now, one speaker, but he was saying that sometimes we look through the eyes of binoculars and not a telescope. Telescope will see further along, where binoculars will only see such a distance. And I think what happens is when we look through the binoculars of here and now, we look at, okay, that person looks great, I'm in my prime, she looks fit, he looks fit, let's get married and let's have loads of kids and loads of babies. She's thinking about, when she sees him, she's thinking, oh, let's get married and have all this family. And he's thinking, how good would she be in bed? And so the two don't collide together. And then when he feels his part of sexual sex and thinks, oh, this is great, but there's not much more value from her. And then she might be thinking, great, we've done the deed now, he's going to be a great dad. And you haven't explored each other's background. So I'm coming off subject, but I'll come back onto it. One of the things I hate when people say is just be a man. Or he needs to be a man. And I've always said, well, explain to me his world of a man. So if his dad has been a cheat, his dad was a drug pusher and was never at home and this, that and the other, and that's the view of a man he always saw, then that's the kind of man he's going to be. Or he's the kind of man he's going to see in his life and try and work away from being. So he's going to grow up thinking, am I either going to be like my dad, or I'm going to try my best not to be like my dad. But either way, there's a conflict. Because if he follows his dad, then he's just like your dad. If you don't follow your dad, it's that conflict of trying to distance myself of that image of my dad so much that if I make one slip up and someone brings me back to, oh, you're just like your dad, then all that work has been totally in vain for nothing. So for a guy, there's always that level of conflict, and that's obviously going to bring its own dramas and issues in itself. So when she marries a guy like that, and they're trying to build an empire, and they haven't discussed their goals. So what we're getting married for? Because I love you, you look good, we're in church together, that's great. All right, what happens beyond that? So we have kids, all right, cool. But then what? I want to be a businessman. And I want to be a businessman in Canada. Okay, well, I want to be a nurse in Bromsgrove. All right, well, then how's this going to work? Because someone's got to give up that dream.
Conflict.
You know what I mean?
Which is an interesting point, because how do you deal with people that want two complete different things? You've got Miss Pamela, who wants to be a scientist in Boston, and then you've got, Derek, who wants to just be a teacher in Birmingham. How do they work that out? Do they say, okay, well, you still live over in Boston, and do you research and work in a science lab, and we support each other as best we can because we have the internet, we have iPads, we have FaceTime and all of that, we do a long distance relationship? Or do you say, okay, well, one of them does have to, like you says, does one of them have to give up one of their dreams?
I think this is the beauty about being a coach is I take no responsibility, but I'm accountable. So whatever direction that couple makes and choices that they make, that's them making that choice, but it's me supporting them on that choice.
Okay.
So if a couple did come into that situation of one wants to go to one side of the world and the other wants to go to the other, again, it's be a complete conversation of let's explore that. So you're going to go to work in Canada and work and do this job over there. She wants to work locally and do this. Let's explore long distance relationships. What's your view on it? you know, because for some couples it absolutely works. There's a couple who I wasn't working with, but I was friends with, and he was working in Saudi Arabia, and she was living over here with the kids. And although it was difficult, they was able to sustain it for a period of time. Unfortunately, they said, you know what, let's all move in one country, and they did. That's not unfortunate, but that's the choice they made. But I would say to any couple, and it's ones that I don't hear a lot of in couples, is what's your goal? That if you've got to definitely identify what your goals is as a couple early on and regular. Otherwise, you'll just live like the wind. So one day he might wake up and be like, you know what, here's what I want to do today. Or she might wake up and be like, actually, we're going to do this instead today. And that again will cause conflict. So if you know what you're identifying and working towards, that would always make a difference. One of the examples I would always say is a couple who were getting married. They set a goal straight away. We're getting married. We've got to save X amount of money. So they're aware of the sacrifices, because what they start doing is they don't go out anymore. Or I'm not doing this anymore. Oh, I got £20, but I've got to save so much money. So I'll spend £2 and I'll save the rest. There's levels of sacrifices and there's levels of things that they do because they're aware of their goal. Their goal is they want to get married on this date. It's going to cost this much. So they set a goal. They make a plan. For some it works, for some it don't. But then after they get married, they walk down the aisle, they have fun times. Them kind of plans drift, and it comes less and less, or non-existent. We used to joke and say like the new couples that just got married kind of used to do my head in. Because they're so excited and passionate and be like, we're going to do everything, we're going to change the world. And 3 years later into marriage, you're like, how's it going? Oh, man, they get on my nerves, man. But I can't stand him. And it's a case of, wow, yeah, man, that's early love because them endorphins are opened. Now, a year and a half later, it's a case of, not so much. And, you're learning a bit, really. But again, with couples, in order to kind of figure out how to make a situation like that work, my advice would be is setting goals. It's setting goals that are realistic and practical. It's asking the questions, even the scary ones. So actually, if we have a long distance relationship, would it work? What we're going to give up? It obviously means face-to-face time, but does it mean we can save money and we can travel over and do different things? Or can we try it for a year and at least it gets out your system and then come back? At least you've done it. So there's a world of different things that couples could try. I mean, one of the couples I coached before was a sexless marriage. And they were happy. And they weren't that old neither. I would say they're probably in their 40s. But they were happy not to have a sex marriage. But for some couples, they might struggle with that and be like, no, that's not what we want.
That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
So just touching on that in terms of you saying that they were happy. They had intimacy, but just not sex.
Yeah.
Is that the case? Or they just was happy not to have anything? Just kind of be partners?
I'm not going to say too much because I don't get their permission.
Okay, yeah, that's all right.
But they were happy to kind of exist together. But sexually, there wasn't much of that.
Now, you mentioned about couples changing over the years and things happening that, they might not have expected them. They're a completely different person. And then now the spouse is definitely, well, who's this person? So, looking at things like death, for instance, how do you work around that in terms of, somebody's, father's passed away, their mother's passed away, their brother's passed away, or whichever. And now they're coming and it's breaking apart the relationship because they were really close. So how do you actually work around that in a brother? Or how would you work around it in a brother?
It's not enough something I've had myself yet. But it's really interesting you say that. I think death is, when it impacts everybody regardless if you're in a relationship or not. It's got to be a massive big thing. I recently, can I say recently? No, last year on my podcast, I interviewed a friend of mine called Prash. His wife had cancer, I believe was, I can't remember what type of cancer it was, but it was type 3 and then rapidly increased. And he's got an amazing book out, which I can give you details for. And in this interview that I had with him, we was just talking about how do you prepare for your wife about to leave? Like, you've got a partner, you've had her, you've been together for so many years, and then you get this traumatic news that in the next 6 months to a year, it's going to be over. And he, in his book and even in the conversation, he was quite graceful by saying that it's something you take day by day. It's something that you plan for, but even when in preparation, it goes out the window when it happens. It's a bit like on a plane, you know what I mean? Like they say to you, in the event of a fire or a plane, here's the actions you do. And then everyone's like, yeah, I get it. But when that plane's going down, that's out your head. That's like, forget, I'm putting my head between my arse. We're going down. Damn it, give me some kind of rescue, give me a parachute. You know, I'm scared of parachute, I'm scared of heights. But I think if the plane was going down, I think I'd find the courage to jump. You know what I mean? So you do all the preparation that you can, but when it happens, it's literally, like I said previously, that new person has opened that door and you've never met them before. And you've now got to learn how to live with them. You know what I mean? So in answering someone who's lost somebody in bereavement, whether it's a partner or a family member or close parent, I think it's definitely about taking that time of support. I think that's when your partner has to 100% step up and learn to not only give you space, but to also be in your space. It's such a difficult way to work because you have to give them space to grieve, but you've also got to be in that space to support. Yeah, so I think that's the responsibility of a partner when going through grief, but not forgetting to safeguard themselves. Because while your partner's going through that situation of grieving, you're too grieving because you've also lost somebody. Yeah, it might not be as close as the person who's lost, but you've lost as well. So it's like I said, it's a very difficult dynamic because although you're in their space but not in their space, they're also at some point going to be in your space and not your space as well. I think the only close example I can think of where myself has been impacted, but I've seen it in another couple, is my parents. When my mum and my stepdad lost my nan, because my mum lost her mum, she didn't come distant, but you could see the pain on her face, and he had to step up, and he had to be around her enough to say, I'm here if you need me or when you need me, but I'm also going to be around to try and pull you out of it, because we can grieve and we've got to grieve, but how long are we going to grieve for? Because we can't both grieve for such a long period of time. And it's a bit of a sore subject because some people, you know, how long do you grieve for? Some people need 5 years, some people need months. It just depends on that person, really. No, I can understand that. And another one of the five that you mentioned in terms of that impacts couples the most is finances. Oh, sweet Lord. So when it comes to finances, I mean, I suppose you got two sides of the coin where you may have one person who's more of a breadwinner and that impacts the relationship negatively, whether that be preconceived ideas of, like, let's say, for instance, the woman is the breadwinner and the man's not earning as much, so he could feel like, oh, I'm not being a man. And then, you know, she could be going on a day-to-day and fine. She's not even probably thinking that, oh, my man ain't even stepping up. She's probably fine. But then he probably thinks that she is, and that can cause conflict, or vice versa. If she does actually feel like, okay, look, he's not he's not really doing enough, you know, him wanting to be a drummer isn't working out here, you know, like we need to do something. So how do you deal with those? Because you've got on one scale somebody who is trying, you know, to follow the dream, or maybe he's not even following his dream. Maybe he's just working, but just not earning as much as she would like, or he himself would like. So how do you plan for that? Because I know you spoke in the beginning about, plans and making sure that they check in on each other in terms of what plans are being made, I guess. So how would you suggest that they plan forward for that? And I take it in both directions. One where there is conflict because of a preconceived idea, and one where there's conflict because it's a real thing. Yeah. One of the things there's a film of animation called Inside Out. Don't you think before? Yeah. Kids program. Sometimes they're better than adults. I agree with that. And the reason I mentioned that, because when I talk to a couple about that program, which I do think is an amazing one, I usually talk about the red button. Okay. What is your red button? So for most couples, their red button is finances. So you'll usually find between the two that one will be pushing that red button because they're either uncomfortable about it, or they're unhappy about it, or they're annoyed about it. Whatever the reason is, that red button's getting pushed. And like you said, because she's making more money than he is, or for different various reasons. And yes, it does cause a lot of conflict. What advice would I give? It's kind of difficult because some couples thrive and do well on one income and want more and learn and just kind of find ways to do it. What I would say for any couple on finances, and some people might not like this one, but it's true. Communication is the key. Okay, always fundamental. You got to talk about your red button. So, and I'll share a bit about myself. So I don't like talking about finances. I came from a household where there was never enough money anyway. So we might have, technically you could say you grew up poor, but you never knew that from a young age. Your mum always prepared and made what you needed until you get to that stage where you're the person, the breadwinner in your household, and you're thinking, my God, how did she make this work? You know what I mean? And so that was something early in my relationship with Sam where I hated talking about it. She'd be like, we need to save some money. And I'd be like, well, why? Like, saving doesn't mean I can spend now. Saving means storing. Well, what we storing for? Like, okay, cool. We put money down, but what we're going to do with that? And then sometimes, I'm sharing a bit now. She'll be all right. It'd be a case of her saying, no, we need to go and buy this. And it's like, okay, well, I didn't plan to buy that. Like, why are we buying that for? Okay, we need to do this. So why are we doing that? So that red button in our relationship got pressed a lot. Because I was like, well, I don't want to do that. So I became very protective of my money. And what then happened was, in our relationship, became mine and hers. So whatever money I brought into the household was mine. Whatever money she brought into the household was hers. And it was like playing blackjack, where I put this money down for the bills, you put that money down for the bills. I'll put that money down for the car, you put that money down for the car. Blackjack, I'm keeping the rest of my money for myself because I want to go and buy some trainers. Or I don't know, I want to go and spend money on myself. I want to go out with my friends. And it might be a case of, well, we still need to pay for this. Well, I've called out. I put my money in, it's your turn now. You pull it in. And that caused massive issues because actually we were learning to distrust each other. And it wasn't because we distrusted each other that you're going to run off and cheat with somebody else. It was because actually you hold finance over me. So you're not prepared to invest in me. So I'm not talking to you. And that caused a massive issue. Thank God it didn't break us. And we've learned a lot from it to the point where we had our children and she stopped working. And I became the main breadwinner for the household. And like for any couple, it's difficult because you're living off one budget but you're still making life work. And what we had to learn from that, which is what the point I'm trying to get to now, is we had to learn to communicate, learn to understand finance. So at one point, money was just money. It came in and you paid for stuff, but not looking at the value of what actually investing is. If we put this money down here, then at a date further down the line, we might need it for something else, or actually we could invest it in something else, and there's going to be a better benefit from it. So it took a lot of learning from both of us, particularly myself, because I'm not the best person with finances. In terms of, if I want something, I'm going to go and get it. I work hard for my money. I work hard for the money that we get in here. So if I want to go and buy that computer, I'm going to buy the computer. But then you realise that that's just being selfish. And so I learned very quickly that actually saving's good, because if you want that laptop, you could probably buy it in a couple months. You don't have to get it now. Actually, the needs of your relationship's more important. But it was also great for my wife because she had to learn how I understood money. So actually, it was a case of, well, actually, yeah, he has worked hard. So he does deserve to get that. I don't want to be a burden on a problem. And so we learned from each other about how to budget and finance and save. Other couples who I've spoken to about finances and worked with, there's that thing of we should have one account. Again, it takes a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Trust to do something like that, because it's one account that you're both dipping into. So if you're used to having your own money and you know what's coming out because you're the only person putting the card in, but when it's a one account and you're both dipping the card in and you're not communicating on, I'm just going to go and buy this today. And you think to yourself, I had £400 there today and now I've got 200. Where's my money gone? It can cause issues, but again, like I said before, and I will keep saying, communication is the biggest fundamental for any couple or any relationship going. So yes, I would say that you need to be talking on that. And also, and this is something that some couples might be embarrassed about, but you got to do it, money management. There's so many apps out there, there's so much tutorials on YouTube.
Yeah.
Learn how to save your money. And best, like, some people we never got enough, but then save £1 a month. You know what I mean? And some people ask, you can't do nothing with £1. You can't, but over a year.
And it's also the mentality of getting into that mentality of, okay, you're saving and you have at least a collection part to put into something else.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, there's so many different information. Like you said, there's books out there regarding finances that people can tap into terms of money management and how to actually spread your income out, over the month and things like that. So yeah, I definitely put some of those on the link because I've read some good ones over the years.
Loads, man.
So how would you say that you're as a new business, as a new startup, how are you currently marketing, brother?
So marketing, I'm using a lot of social media. A lot of people be like, why don't you just get your website sorted? Well, when you start your business, like I've got a young family, and like I said earlier, it's one income coming through. So you've got to learn how to be smart when marketing and investing. So one of the things I've got to mention, which when the Brava kicked off, was a great and amazing business partner, Denzel and Ed Mead. Because when I first started the business, I had no idea about how business works. You know Denzel?
Yeah, I know Denzel.
Small world, man. So when I didn't have any idea how the business world worked, and where to go with it or which direction to move with it. And interestingly enough, I mentioned Denzel. We used to go to the same church together, and I've seen him in passing. He's a kind of he's an excitable guy. So if you've ever met Denzel and he's listening to, hi. He's an excitable guy. He's full of energy, great guy. And so we used to pass like ships in the night. How you doing? You alright? You good? Like to see you, and then we get off. And I remember one time I was sitting down and I was like, how do I get this started? And something came to me, you need to go and talk to this guy. I didn't even know Denzel did business. Yeah. But something about me was like, you need to go and talk to this guy. And I was like, I don't know why, but okay. If I see him, then I'll approach him. And it just so happened that when that happened, he was sitting 3 chairs behind me. And he doesn't usually come to the service that I usually go to at the same time. Like we usually, like I said, we pass each other. So we're very rarely in the same space at the same time. So for him to be sitting 3 chairs behind me, at the same time that came to my head of, you need to speak to this guy. I was like, I've got to act on this straight away. So we talked and we worked on it, and he was a great support in terms of helping us with launching it on social media, getting our videos out there. So you can still see them now on YouTube, under Jen Hope and under Abrava, doing top tips, where myself and my wife are doing tips from our experience on how to get around stuff, which could be communication, finances, just different areas, even mental health. So there's top tips on YouTube that you can find. So we use social media, business cards, business network events, and then also working with counsellors. So sometimes quite a few of our referrals have been from counsellors, where they've sat down with a couple and said, we've counselled you enough now. What you need is to build. And actually to build, you need to go and speak to a coach. So sometimes they would say, here's a Brava, go and check these guys out, see what you think.
Nice.
So that works really well. The next, there's different stages. The next stage for me is launching a event that we were hoping to do this year. We're going to be trying to do one on our own independent self in Birmingham. More details to come on that one. And the second one will be working, hopefully, with a Church of England organisation who's going to financially support us on that one to run a best practice day. And if it works in its full fulfilment, it would be excellent, because it would be the first of its kind, where you're getting around the table for best practice Muslims, Jewish, Christians, Catholics, Mormons, and Quakers around one table in a forum talking about marriage and their relationships.
Okay.
So I'm very interested and excited about that one.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting table conversation. I'm sure you're going to have some interesting views that come up.
Indeed.
Yeah, you're going to have to put out some disclaimers first. No, but Germaine, that sounds really good, man. What else have you got coming up over the next 1 to 3 years? What can we expect from a brother? Or where do you see yourself in the next 1 to 3 years?
Wow, so a brother in 3 years' time. I mean, there's the big dream, which we're talking about. We talked about that before, didn't we? The big dream, which I won't share now, just in case someone's listening and tries to steal my dream. But in 3 years' time, I totally believe that we will be having a lot more coaches under a brother. So it won't just be myself and Sam. There'll be a lot more coaches coaching and supporting. Because coaching is very much an American thing. And so in America, people pay for coaching without even thinking about it. In England, we think it's more for counselling that we would rather see. So there'll be a lot more increase in people understanding how coaching works and accessing it. We'll have a lot more material online that people can practice at home. So it'll be stuff that people can sit down and look at and practice in their household. Particularly one for men that we're developing is men don't like going to sessions. So if you mention to a guy that we're going to counselling, he'll freak out. And be like, I'm not going. But when a guy talks about going counselling, it means, listen, we're about to break up unless we get this sorted. So we're developing a Brava app where you should be able to be at home and get the services from a Brava in one place without having to travel out. And the answer's being answered there as well. And then we'll also have in 3 years, or more sooner than 3 years, a lot more forums. As much experience I've got in my marriage, and as much as I can talk from a coaching perspective, I believe that when you sit with another couple and hear their experience and their journeys, whether it's been great or whether it's been difficult, but they can talk to you about an end. For me, I always get motivation from seeing something like that. So you will definitely see, like I said, coming soon this year, a forum, and you'll see a lot more of them that people can access. And so, that's what you're going to see from a brother.
Sounds really good, man. Now, just before we wrap up, if you could tell your younger self anything, some advice you'd give to your younger self. You've got 2 sons now. What type of advice would you give them, particularly around relationships? Well, maybe just becoming a man.
What would I say about relationships? Don't go out with the French. I'm joking. I went out with a French person. Nothing could get to French, but I went out with a partner who was from a French background. That was such an eye-opener. Hopefully she's not listening. But what would I tell my younger self? I think one of the things that I would tell myself is it's achievable. And the reason why I say that is because, like I said, my well-to relationships were parents being divorced, friends around us, parents being divorced as well. You kind of borrowing papers, dads, because you didn't have one at home. So you kind of grow up thinking, all right, I'm going to end up in prison. I'm going to have 15 kids. Doesn't help as well when you're in school or in places and people say to you, you're going to go in prison, you're going to have enough kids. And so, unlucky on you people. But it's achievable, because I thought about one day, could I get married? And I am. But at a younger age, you'd never believe that it's possible. Particularly with certain relationships, you think to yourself, this is it. Your life is going to go this direction, and it doesn't. So that's the advice I would give to my younger self. The advice I would give to younger boys who are listening is, we say it to girls quite a lot, but I'm going to say it to boys, is respect yourself. Respect yourself in terms of how you conduct yourself, how you present yourself. And that doesn't mean you have to dress in a tie and suit and stuff like that. But presentation is key, you know what I mean? A lot of young boys that I see nowadays, they're very invested in an image that's sometimes very different to their personality. So some guys will kind of give it off fake it till you make it, acting like you've got all the money in the world and you can't put £2 together. So I would say, guys, watch how yourself is and get some mentorship, get some accountability. Find some guys. There's plenty of older guys out there you can speak to, who you can talk to, and try and get some good invested advice. If not, come grab us on Instagram, and we can help. And my last bit I would say to young ladies is if you're a diamond, make sure you wrap it up. And the reason I say that is because nowadays so many girls think that what girls want is a half naked lady. And one saying that my mum used to say to me from a young age that I hold value now is, why buy the cow if you can have the milk? Okay, and a lot of girls just giving out a whole bag of milk. And then saying, where's all the good guys? Well, the good guy is doesn't want your milk, he wants the cow. But you've given out too much milk. And it comes with a title. Like, you know, some guys might look and be like, I don't want her because she holds a representation. She holds a title. And some people might be like, you can't say that. But it's true. Like, I went to an event on Saturday and I was so shocked to see how some of these young girls were going on. Some girls, really attractive, look really, well, I shouldn't say look really smart, but I think they look really smart, really well kept together, giving each other lap dances. And I said to my wife, if I was their age, I'd look at her and be like, I'd be on her. But I wouldn't want to marry her. That's not the kind of girl you want to bring home to mommy. And so if you want a great relationship, then you have to start putting that out from now. And yeah, I know you might say it's just a bit of fun. Well, you know, find a different way of having fun. That's just I sound like a granddad now. I am now a parent with 2 kids now. My view of the world is very different. But yeah, just, you know, look after yourself and present yourself a bit better. Yeah.
No, man, wise words of wisdom that we've had over this past hour, definitely, for sure. So, Germaine, where can people find you? Where can they find a Brava? What's your Instagram handle? What's the website that's soon to come? What's the address?
So, the website will be coming soon. I feel like a lot of people say that and I ain't got nothing coming out. So it depends on how you interpret it soon. It's not coming in the next 2 weeks, but it's coming at some point.
Okay, cool. This year,
We'll say this year is quite long, isn't it? We're in the 6th month. But no, Instagram at the moment, we're definitely always putting content on there. So if I'm not putting a video, then we're putting some wise words that people can try. And we're putting on coaching techniques as well that people can listen to.
And what's the account name?
So the account is the same, Abrava. If you whack...
How do you spell that?
So Abrava is I almost forgot to spell my own name. Abravah. Okay? Whack that into any search engine. So put that into Google and you will get our social media account. You'll get our YouTube account. Anything to do with Abrava, you'll see straight pinned on there and you'll get all your information.
Fantastic. Germaine Bowen Smith, thank you very much. This has been Business Marketing Finance Podcast. I'm your host, Darryl James. We thank you for your listening time. We'll see you next week.
This is the Business Marketing and Finance Podcast, the podcast for all your business marketing and financial needs. Get insight from experienced professionals as they delve deep into their passions and share their knowledge each week with your host, Darryl James. Like to follow or learn more? You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button now.